we are moving on to learning goal 3, which is I can solve multi-digit division problems with a 2-digit divisor. So far, we've had 1. That means the number on the outside of the problem is only 1 digit. Now we're moving on to the tricky double-digit ones.
Yes.
But we will give you a trick to make it easier. So, you'll notice Shadow is making an appearance today. He wanted to help teach you guys this because he knows it's kind of tricky and he's a very smart dog. So, to start off with some review, and you don't have to write all of these down, we just want to show you how we're going to build upon what you already know. So if you had a 1-digit divisor, so meaning this. So this problem would have been 3,822 divided by 7. So just 1 digit out here. You could solve it in 3 ways. There's the rectangle sections way. There's the expanded notation way. And there's the digit by digit method. So 3 choices that you've had, and by now you probably have one that's your favorite. So the good news is you're going to be able to use those for these as well. So when you divide by 2 digits, you can use the same methods. So yippee! So keep that in mind. Keep whichever one is your preferred method in mind, and we'll show you how to do that with each of them. We'll just briefly talk about those. But the big thing we're going to talk about is the first step. And the first step is, so if you have a problem like this, 2 digits, like that is kind of scary when you look at that. The first step is rounding the divisor. So if you look at 32, we're going to round that to whatever the closest 10 is. So 32, is that closer to 30 or is it closer to 40? So in this case, hopefully y'all know 32 is closer to 30. So we are going to use this number 30, this little estimated number 30, to give us sort of a ballpark for where we're going to start. Now, that's all that number's for, is to give us an idea of where to start, what we might be dividing by or multiplying by. So keep that in mind. It's just to give us a ballpark, and then when we go through and actually solve and do that, second step, the multiplying step of a division, you're not going to be multiplying with this number at all.
No.
You're going to be multiplying with this big dog right here. So just keep that in mind. So step 1's the same, round the divisor. So please make sure that you write these down. And you're going to take it from here.
Okay, good. So let's just think of rectangle sections. What you would do is, once again, instead of asking, well, how many times does 32 go into 2048? That can seem really daunting. So instead, you're just going to say, well, roughly, how many times would 30 go into 2000? And if I think about that, then I can think about how, here's my problem set up with rectangles. Hopefully you're thinking, well, 6 should work out here, or 60. So the big thing is, though, just like we were saying, now that we have like a way to start, now we still want to use this number here. So we're still going to multiply 60 times 32 to get our next number here.
Now,
so
if we back up just a quick second, are you guys wondering how Mrs. Van Dam got 60 and how she figured that out so quick? I mean, if you think, I don't know, when I think about it, like 30 going into 2000, that still is pretty hard. But if I think about just numbers I know, 30 and 20, for example, or 3 and 20. 3 goes into 20 6 times, and then I just use that to expand out the 0.
Right.
So again, it's sort of using the mental math that we've learned in
just
past
tacking
lessons.
on those zeros.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Yep, that's true. So sorry if I rushed through there, but
no,
I must be a whiz at that. Anyway, so now
genius.
the other part, though, really, really important, is now I want to think about, okay, 60 times 32 would give me 1,920. And I don't know about you, but I would have probably done that off to the side here to get an answer like this. I didn't just think that in my head.
No.
I'm not that good.
No.
So now we have to subtract 2,048 minus 1,920, and I get 128. That is going to be my next rectangle over here. And once again, though, I can think about, well, okay, how many times would 30 go into a number like around 120? And once again, like 3 into 12, I'm thinking 4 would be a good place to start here. So, oh yeah, look at that. There we go. So here is my 4, but this time, once again, I want to think about 4 times 32, and I'm going to get 128. Yay, it works out perfect.
Now, if you get a number, if you guessed like maybe 5, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and you multiplied it out and you ended up with a number down here that was bigger, then you should automatically realize in your head that you were too high.
Yeah.
So you needed to go back and take this down one. So you've got to constantly be thinking, does what I'm doing make sense?
Mm-hmm. Always key. So then we get 0, and then...
Whoops, we didn't add them up.
We should have had 60 plus 4 equals 64.
Yeah, oops, sorry.
Maybe you'll see it here.
Yeah, apparently Shadow needs to work on that. Okay, so we're going to use the same problem, only this time we're going to solve it with expanded notation. So again, if this was your preferred method, then this is the one you really want to key into. So if you get stuck on the ones you do on your own, this is the one you'll rewind and watch. You don't have to rewatch all 3, just watch the one that really pertains to you.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we start with the same step. Round my divisor. So I'm rounding 32 down to 30. And I'm thinking in my head, how many times does 30 go into 2000 rather than 32 into 2048? And we end up with 6, because 3 times 6 is 18, close to 20.
Yep.
Now when I multiply, I would multiply 60 times 32. And if I could turn this mouse into a pen, I would write it over here, but I can't. So I ended up doing it off to the side, and I did when I was making this. I had it on a little piece of paper, multiplied it all out, and ended up with 1,920. Subtracted and end up with 128. So now I think, how many times does 30 go into 128, or like Mrs. Van Dam said, 120, just to think in your head as an estimate, and it ends up with 4. So 4 times, not 30, 4 times 32. You have to, when you multiply, use the actual number.
Yeah.
4 times 32 is 128. Subtract and you have 0. So again, and I don't know if Shadow missed this part or not, but you put these together, you get 64. Oh, phew, you got it that time. Got it that time. So 64 should have been your answer. And then the last method was digit by digit.
Yes. And so I'll walk you through that one. And so looking here, once again, you want to think about rounding your divisor down to the nearest 10. So we have 30 again. So this time you can think to yourselves, okay, well, how many times would 30 roughly go into 200-ish with our zeros? So, or really... Anyway,
well,
with digit by digit, I guess I would think 200 first, but same idea. So really, once again, now we're just going to think about 6 going into 30. But once again, not 30, because 32. We want to multiply by our actual divisor, which is 32. So we get 192, and we're going to subtract that, and we get 12. Then, remember, we got to bring down, so we get 128. These numbers should sound familiar. But once again, 30 going into like 120-ish, we should think about this number 4, because 3 times 4 equals 12, so that's going to bring us really close. So we get 4 times 32 equals 128, and we subtract and we get 0. So this is our final answer, 64. And then, of course, you could always do multiplication one more time just to double check and make sure that's correct.
Yep. So you should be able to multiply 64 and 32 to get 2048.
Yes.
Okay, so now you get to try one. Shadow is very confident in your abilities. So here's one for you to try, and you can use whichever method works the best for you. So again, like I said before, if you need to rewind, just watch the method that you like the best. So here's your problem. 1,533 divided by 21. So again, remember, start by rounding the divisor. So write this out, pause us, try it, and come back and we will go over this with you. Okay, so let's see how you did. The first thing I'm going to do is round my divisor. So 21 is closer to 20 than it is to 30, so I'm going to round it down to 20. Now I need to think, okay, so how many times does 20 go into... And since I'm going to do digit by digit, so I'm going to start by looking at these numbers. So this is like 153 is kind of like 150, or 2 into 15. I mean, there's lots of ways you can mentally think about this. And I end up with 7. So again, I'm not going to multiply 7 times 20. I'm going to multiply 7 times 21. And I end up with 147. So when I subtract that, I end up with 6, and then I bring down my next digit. So now again, I'm thinking, how many times does 20 go into 63, roughly? 3. because I know 20 times 3 is 60.
Mm-hmm.
So, but when we multiply again, you multiply 3 times the actual number 21 and get 63 and end up with 0. So your answer should be 73. Hopefully you all got that. And now, haha, I love this picture. He's all up in your face. So try these 3 problems on your own. He's going to know. Shadow is all-powerful. He'll be watching you. So if you don't try, he's going to find out. And also, just to give you a heads up, 2 warnings I'm noticing. First of all, some or all of these might have a remainder. They may not work out perfectly. That's okay. And also, if you look at some of these, like 79, if you go to round this to the closest 10,
you might be going
up instead of down. So just pay close attention to your rounding. And please try it and know that your group will be there to help you tomorrow, and so will we. So good luck, and we will see you then.